What's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 461 of the Established Run NBA podcast. I'm Mike Gallagher here with Austin Yamada to preview/review the Game 5, Game 6 action. Obviously, really impressive game from OKC, and we are going to spend a lot of time talking about Tyrese Haliburton's calf injury, an injury that he had suffered before in the playoffs and aggravated. It was really bothering him. It's going to bother him tonight. We'll talk about what that means for him, who could step up, how OKC could take advantage, all that good stuff. With me to do so again, Austin Yamada. Austin, how's it going?
Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah, this could be the last. It'll be the last podcast before the season's end. It will be on Monday. If there's a game 7, we'll talk about that. Or we'll talk about OKC wrapping it up tonight. Had a big Lakers sale. We'll talk briefly about that. I don't think there's too much to say, but yeah, let's start with Tyrese Haliburton and the injury here, just to kind of go through it. Rick Carlisle said it's clear that he's not 100%. He said that he's basically we saw his minutes get cut a little bit. I think that's like the big story. I think it's like very unlikely that Tyrese Haliburton plays like 37, 38 minutes. Certainly we saw the Aaron Gordon injury. That was a hamstring where it really bothered him. He was not the same player at all. But obviously Haliburton is the engine of their offense. I think he could play a little bit off the ball. We'll talk more about that. But yeah, Haliburton said he's going to do everything in his power to play. Of course, I think the first thing that Haliburton has to play, right? And I think it's there's no chance that the medical staff intervenes, right? It's game 6 of the NBA finals. You don't want to do that to your franchise player if he wants to play. So I feel pretty strongly he's gonna play. But yeah, kind of, what are your expectations for Haliburton? And then how do you think they're gonna view him? Do you think he's gonna play off the ball more, maybe shoot more 3-pointers? I think that's something I'm looking at. But yeah, how do you view Haliburton's impact? And we'll talk about Nembhard, McConnell, etc.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think he's going to play. Obviously, he struggled the last game, and obviously there's a decent part that's probably due to the calf injury. I don't want to speak as a medical expert that I'm not, but I will say that I thought he played poorly, even in spite of a calf injury. I didn't think he was that good, regardless. I don't know what it's like to be him and to shoot jump shots with the calf, but it did not seem I thought he could have played better even with the calf injury. And the other thing I would note, and again, I don't want to speak like a doctor when I'm not, but if I were to just profile types of players that a calf strain would affect, I would think that it doesn't affect his type of play style quite as much as a really explosive guard wing that really relies on athleticism. In that I'm not fully excusing his poor performance, I'm also saying that I think he could be an asset in game 6, even with sort of a calf strain. He probed the defense, run the offense, make good passes, shoot jump shots. I do think Hallie could still be additive on the offensive end, even in spite of his injury in game 6. But it might affect his ability to get to the rim, and it will almost definitely affect his defense and his rebounding. He's actually been a pretty good rebounder, very unsung defensive rebounder this whole playoffs. But especially on the defensive end, he's already not a great one-on-one defender, and I could see OKC really attacking him. They love mismatches, and he's the most obvious player to target when he's fully healthy on the defensive end. So I could see, if he's out there, you're really trading, even if he is running the offense, how much defense are you giving back, and how relentlessly will OKC attack him?
Yeah, I was gonna think about some possible lineup switches, and maybe we could talk about that. But the classic put your center on Lou Dort thing is pretty hard to do that. You don't really want to put Haliburton anywhere else. So that's an interesting note. Yeah, I think he won't bring the ball up as much. I think that has to be because the way Dort's been pressuring him, you're running through Lou Dort and you're not 100%. Don't even bother with that. So I think Andrew Nembhard, and we saw a little bit more TJ McConnell overlap in the last game. That's been coming up. I think it's been 3-4 minutes. I think it got to 8 last game. So yeah, that's been pretty. I think that's going to be we'll talk more in depth there. But yeah, I think Haliburton's off-ball game is going to be a big part of the offense. So I think a little bit more Nembhard, maybe more Siakam bringing the ball up. Maybe just less passing overall. Okay, we know Indiana just passes like crazy. We'll talk about OKC's passing and lack thereof, which was still fine. But yeah, I think Haliburton will play differently. I feel quite confidently his ball handling role is going to come down significantly on top of the depreciating minutes as well there. So yeah, let's talk about Andrew Nembhard next. I think he's a guy who we saw in the Boston series last year. He was really good. Obviously they got swept, but they played some pretty close games because Andrew Nembhard was fantastic, was really good in the Knicks series last year. really throughout the playoffs, he's been really valuable. So, do you think Andrew Nemhard is a guy who they could utilize more to attack, not driving much? Should note Haliburton only drove 5 times in the last game too, so he's not driving, wasn't driving a lot anyways. But yeah, how do you think Andrew Nemhard and could impact the offense, and can they have him impact the offense in a significant way while he is guarding SGA? That's a lot to ask out of him.
Before we talk about that, I'm seeing some stuff online that Hallie is, or Sham's reporting that Hallie is in tonight. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Nemhar is interesting because, his background is as a point guard. He came up as a point guard, but I would say if fully healthy, he is the third of the 3 point guards in terms of true offense running ability on the Pacers. And we should also note this is I think the first game of the series where like OKC really wreaked havoc on the turnovers. Indiana with 22, including like, what is this, 15 from the starters. And I think that one of Hallie's greatest strengths is his ability, because you have point guards that are historically good playmakers like James Harden and prime Russell Westbrook, prime John Wall, but those players, that make a lot of home run passes, they turn it over a ton. And then you have players like Mike Conley, who has historically been elite at taking care of the ball, but running really low assist rates relatively and not necessarily making the home run pass. And I think Hallie is just this elite combination of being able to probe the defense, being able to make difficult passes that add a lot of shot probability added to their passes, and yet also take care of the ball in a pretty historic way. And I don't think that Nemhard and McConnell, especially Nemhard, have that same sort of transcendent passing ability. So I think Nemhard, if he's running the show, is going to turn it over a lot more than Hallie is per possession. And I'm not sure he's quite the playmaker that Hallie is too. So, it's one of those like lesser of two evils if Hallie's not effective. And it's not like Nemhard's an incapable point guard, but he's clearly a step down from Tyrese.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about Haliburton's ability to take care of the ball. You noted it; they had the 22-11 edge in turnovers, and that was like their only issue, right? Like we saw them, have transition. That was a big increase. They shot the ball okay. They hit a 57.2 true shooting. That's solid. That's the highest they've had in a loss since March 26th. They got good looks. They won the wide open battle, all that good stuff. But yeah, just the turnovers hurt them. I think that Haliburton's scoring ability and just the ability to take care of the ball, I think, is going to really, really hinder them. So he's gonna play, or he's gonna try. I mean, there's a chance he warms up, doesn't have it, man. Like there's still a chance of that. Like we're expecting him to play for sure, but there's a world where he doesn't, maybe he doesn't start the second half. So just, and even though it's unlikely, what does that look like? I think Mathurin starts. Birthday boy, shut up, Narrative Street. Do you agree with me that Mathurin would maybe start the second half, or 5% chance Haliburton doesn't play, he starts? And how much McConnell are we going to get if he's like really limited to say, 15 minutes or something to that effect?
Yeah, I do think Mathurin is the biggest beneficiary here. I think like if they wanted to put the ball in Nemhard and Siakam's hands, they could play a little Ben Shepherd as well. It would be hard for me to see anyone else. Like obviously Obi's minutes will be pushed up, but like it would be pretty surprising if they went at like a ton of like triple big. I mean obviously TJ will play more if Hallie's not there, but I do think a lineup with TJ and Nemhard and like Siakam-ish is like overlapping ball handling and just not a lot of shooting, not a lot of spacing, not like you probably want another defender in there in Shepherd. So yeah, I think it's gonna be Shepherd and Mathurin. But the problem with Mathurin is like outside of that one game where he was like his scoring profile does not profile well versus OKC's defense. We talked about this before. Like it's nice to have another like guy who can take score off the dribble, create shots for himself. But Mathurin doesn't really like pass the ball. Like he's not really setting up teammates. He drives into traffic, head down. The one thing he does that's really valuable is get to the line. And like Indiana has been surprisingly competent to me at like keeping up in the free throw game for the most part with OKC. I think there is some element of like outside of J-Dub and Shea, no one else in OKC really draws fouls, but like no one really draws fouls on
Mhm.
on Indiana either. And for them to go to the line 30 times with a tougher whistle than the game before, where they also went to the line like 33 times. Um, I do think that has kept them in games, and like that's a quality that Matherin has. But we're just talking about a lot of sort of subpar options if we're having to fill these Haliburton minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't want to talk more about McConnell. I mean, he almost got them to win. I mean, that third quarter from McConnell was insane. You and I have been talking a lot about just his getting cut down. Like that's clearly off the table with how great he's been. But like, does OKC come out with more like really try to like take McConnell out of his game? He's been killing them. And should note that the 30 minutes of the Hallie McConnell minutes have gone pretty well. They're +8 net rating in those minutes as well. So definitely some interesting there. But yeah, do you think like OKC's like, all right, we can't let McConnell do this to us again? So I kind of think they do. I think they're gonna like really, really like have him pretty high on the scouting report to like, all right, don't let this McConnell thing like derail us, and let's close this out tonight. But do you think OKC pressures Haliburton a little bit? I'm sorry, McConnell a little bit more.
I think he's higher on the scouting report in terms of like when he penetrates, they haven't been helping as much as like when Anthony Edwards, penetrates. But like
Mhm.
um I still think they're gonna leave him wide open from three. I think
Mhm.
anything outside of like 18 feet will be TJ's all day long.
Mhm.
And he's like knocked him down at a decent percentage. Like I think he had a long two as well. Plus he had a three last game. But if I were Dagnall, I'd probably still let him shoot those. I
Mhm.
do agree that he will find more help coming when he steps foot in the paint this game.
Mhm.
Um, but Indiana shot the three ball decently against this OKC
Mhm.
defense. So like I think TJ will still be like, I need to just, we didn't think he would be a good matchup versus this defense, and he has been. And I'm willing to just say that we were wrong and I was wrong. And like,
Yep.
yeah, even if they do help, he still has that low pull up midi, and then he's still going to be drawing the defense in and kicking, which is something that I think he and Hallie do better than Nemhard.
Yeah, most of my DFS takes have been pretty good. The TJ McConnell ones are not, and is why I'm like, if I would have played more TJ McConnell, I would like probably shipped it like twice. But I digress. Last thing I want to tie in Aaron Neesmith and Miles Turner a little bit together, and Siakam defensively. So Neesmith, who was incredible and coming into the playoffs, like arguably like a playoff all defensive team, he'd be on it. But like he is not. He is getting torched by J Dub. Really, almost the last 3 games he's been just lit up. So I think that will be an adjustment. I think there's a chance that maybe they flip that matchup where they put Siakam on J Dub and then they put Aaron Neesmith on Chat. I think that's viable. I think that makes sense just because just Neesmith getting killed this way night after night, and his, I think, lack of defensive confidence has kind of hurt his offensive confidence, and certainly has hurt Rick Carlisle's confidence in playing him more with his minutes being really light. So yeah, thoughts on possibly flipping that matchup with putting Neesmith on Chat just to, because this J Dub thing. I mean, J Dub absolutely. I mean, 40 ball in the finals in 35 minutes, just incredible game, driving at will, making all those high off the glass layups. But yeah, do you think they've flipped the matchup a little bit and not putting Neesmith on J Dub as much?
Um, maybe, but like, I don't know if I love Siakam on JW either. Like,
Yeah.
Siakam has been really good at helping in the gaps, and like he's what, back to back 5 steal games. Siakam does have length and is like fairly mobile for a 4 or 5, but
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know that I want him guarding like a true guard. Um, and like I know Neesmith has been lit up, but
Mm-hmm.
like Neesmith, just tools wise and just like skill set wise, is a plus defender in my opinion. It's really tough to separate. Like, did this ankle injury hurt him? Is he specifically poor against guarding J Dub? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is J Dub just making really tough shots? Like, is Neesmith forcing him to, like, I don't know what the true answer here is. I do think J Dub is a
Yeah.
really talented scorer. But like, I think I have to rely on my priors of like a whole career body of work that Neesmith is a really good defender. Going into this finals, I would have said that Neesmith is a better defender than Nemhard, and like I think I still
Yep.
think that long term, but like obviously the results have not played out that way. So And the other thing too is like I acknowledge he hasn't been good. He's had some foul trouble and his minutes have been cut down. But like, I don't know that he's been that bad offensively. Like, he's
Mhm.
shooting really well from three. He's one of Indiana's best 3 point shooters this series. I think his offense has been okay. I just generally am a Neesmith bull, and like, especially if Hallie is hurt or limited, and you just need to fill minutes. Like, I would think Neesmith plays more. He is like, this series aside, just a very integral part of this team. And I think it's just really a question of like how much do you weigh um, his impact this series versus what a larger body of work.
Yeah, it was just really stunning to see him sub out so quick with 4 minutes, and I had to take that. I thought he was going to play more, which was really wrong. And yeah, not good to be wrong on that one there. But yeah, other than that, I don't have much to say on Miles Turner. I think the illness cut him down. I thought he played like a little bit better in the last game. I thought he was better involved offensively. But yeah, I think we covered all the Indiana guys. But yeah, just to talk more OKC stuff. Yeah, I mean the turnovers were really the whole thing, but I did note the passing. Again, they had light passing, 209 passes. They've just been 214 per game. That's down from 257 they averaged before the finals. So it's a huge cut. 270 per game in the regular. Like their lack of passing was really there, but did get 24 assists in the last game after 10 in game 4. So that kind of got solved. 37 potential assists from 24 as well. But yeah, did you see anything from SGA? Didn't shoot the ball well. We talked about J Dub already, but do you think this lack of passing is kind of like okay for them? Seems fine, but do you have any concerns with just the lack of ball movement that OKC's had? But it certainly worked, like, pretty. But the turnovers did help them a lot.
Yeah, part of it's just the way Indiana defends. Like
Mm-hmm.
they are, as we noted, like heavier shift, heavier help this playoffs, especially versus OKC, than we've ever seen from Indiana. But
Mm-hmm.
like relative to like some other defenses out there, like they're still taking away the 3 pointer, and like even their show is kind of like a like show and get back. Like they do not want to allow wide open threes,
Mm-hmm.
and like for OKC, J Dub somewhat, but Shea especially so. Like if you're not going to bring a double and you're not going to like take away his shot, he's gonna shoot it. And like we've seen just outrageous shot attempts from Shea this whole series. Like we had a 30 shot attempt. He's shot 20 or more times in every single game and that's with a ton of free throws too. And like
Mm-hmm.
not that many 3 pointers. Like he really is just driving and getting to the rim or taking that mid range. And like to this point, Indiana's been generally fine with it. And like outside of the free throws, like Shea hasn't been especially efficient per shot. So I guess like if you were to run back 5 games over and over, I think Indiana's net rating has been better than you would expect. So it's like hard to say that what they're doing is wrong or that it isn't working. I don't know if you have any thoughts there on like
Yeah.
when you noted it, like would you do something different as Indiana?
No, I'm pretty. I guess take care of the ball. I think that's the difference. Like I said, they shot the ball okay. SGA, like you are noting there, his jumpers are down 10% on efficiency, and his distributions look the same. So he's just missing those shots that he normally does. Credit to Nemhard, credit to the defense they're playing. It's just, man, J Dub doing that, like that's the only thing that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I was just kind of tossing it out there, but I think if that's happening again, like I think that could be on the table to like flip the matchup, like I was saying. I thought Chet was really good. New Dort, the offensive rebounding was really big from Dort. 5 offensive rebounds there. I'm not seeing a lot of Hartenstein. Obviously, Cruz has been excellent. We saw him sub in really early, very early, almost thought I was making dinner for game 5 and I like missed the first like 30 seconds. I was like, whoa, Cruz is in already. But yeah, any other notes for the role players? Could we get an Aaron Wiggins road game? It's kind of crazy. The last 2 home games, he's been spectacular, but the 2 games at Indiana, he was not very good. So yeah, any other kind of like down the line OKC guys you just wanted to add on real fast?
Um, I mean, not really. Like it seems like the top five plus Caruso plus are locked in, and then Kaysen's locked in for his like 18 to 20 minutes, regardless of how he's playing. And then like Aaron Wiggins does feel kind of hot. Like how does first half rotation go? It kind of determines his second
Mm-hmm.
half. They have kind of trimmed it down. We saw no Isaiah Joe. Uh, it seems like Kenrich has kind of been decided as the backup 4-5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think this is like the way that they are going to go unless there's some crazy. They're down by 20 and it's really not working. Like I can't see a surprise addition. It would be hard for me to see like a huge tweak in like this. Just seems like the way that it is going. And then one thing when we moved on from Indiana, I wanted to know. I'm surprised you didn't ask about the like Tony Bradley 12
Yeah,
minutes and
that's
just
my next question.
like Miles only played 24 and Obi played 21. Usually there's like a push pull there, and Siakam only played 33. But in this case, like those three combined for maybe I think the fewest minutes they have all series. That was
Mhm.
78, 79 minutes of those three. So like less bigs, more small units, and then also Tony Bradley 12 minutes. Did you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I talked a lot about this for Game Five for the content that Rick Carlisle was really distraught from the lack of rebounding they had in Game Four. So that was why I was a little bit more bullish on Neesmith, maybe more Siakam plays more, maybe Turner plays more. I got the reason right. I just got the person wrong. I think that's why they did it. I think that Tony Bradley was like he's been rebounding. That's what they did with the Knicks. So I think he's like, oh, we went to Tony Bradley with the Knicks to help our rebounding. Let's do it here. So I think that's kind of why. Certainly makes sense to have him out there for the Hartenstein minutes there. But yeah, I feel pretty good he's going to be out there again. So it's going to be. I think Obi probably has to play more, especially like we're saying here. The Haliburton punch on offense, especially if Siakam, who we should add we had kind of low expectations for Siakam. I put him in like bad matchup like all the time, getting J-Dub, getting Caruso, and he's been spectacular, partly because of transition. But yeah, definitely think Obi Toppin's minutes should be pretty good. I think Bradley could get cut a little bit, but Miles Turner maybe still feeling the ill effects from the illness. Sometimes it takes guys like a week and a half. Franz Wagner took like 3 weeks, and on top of other players. So yeah, I think that like you're saying, I think it could tighten up a little bit. I don't think I'm expecting Tony Bradley to get 12. I think Obi will play a little bit more. I think Miles will play a little bit more. Neesmith TBD. Obviously, Halliburton playing fewer minutes and pushing McConnell to more of a quote unquote straight point guard. That's going to open up more minutes for the wings, especially if Mathurin like doesn't have it going. Like that could be, those guys I mentioned, Neesmith, Obi Toppin, Miles Turner, Siakam, maybe play 3-4 minutes above their average to kind of soak up the anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes coming off of Halliburton there. Yeah, it sounds like you're pretty much in agreement with the. I think Bradley's playing. Do you think Bradley's playing tonight?
I think he will play in the first half again. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
bit less bullish than you on
Yeah.
like I think it'll be single digit minutes.
Yeah.
Like their back is against the wall. Like, are you really gonna go down with Tony
Yep.
Bradley? Plus, like Tony Bradley's just so you know incapable on the offensive end without like
Mm-hmm.
sort of putbacks or like just like running a pick and roll and having like someone like Halliburton feeding him. The less Halliburton we get, I would assume the less Tony Bradley we get.
Yeah.
And just like I don't know, like is the rebounding worth all of the other things you're giving up? And like Tony Bradley is by far the most of like their top 10. Like he's probably the most targetable by like Shea and Jada will be licking their chops. So
Yeah.
I that's the reason Thomas Bryant's not playing this series really. And like I don't know, I don't think Tony Bradley's the answer.
Yeah, I don't either. Just that's what Carwell thinks he is. But yeah, I think that's probably that's the most likely scenario. I think he plays the first half and just gets cut out. I think Ben Shepherd's kind of cooked. But like we were saying, if Halliburton's limited, you may need to find some minutes. We know Rick Carroll doesn't want to play too tight. Still haven't seen like a lot of minutes out of really only like 2 or 3 games. We've seen like Siakam get like playoff style minutes. It's quite odd. There. So yeah, I think we mostly covered it. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say. If we want to get to predictions, I think we covered pretty much everything. And we'll, yeah. Where you at? Sounds like we're both kind of leading OKC. I think this Halliburton thing is just a lot to overcome. Should note, Indy's been really pretty. Last year they were really good with their backs against the wall against the Knicks. We'll see where we're at. So yeah, thoughts on does OKC close it out tonight?
I do think so.
Yeah.
Um, I would think so, even if like I would think they have a pretty good shot, even if Hallie were fully healthy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard to know how much to weigh this Hallie injury,
Mm-hmm.
but I think like I don't know. I just OKC is the better team, and like man, if they sort of are turning over Indiana again, like it just I don't know. It seemed like to me they're shot making is more sustainable. Like they're getting a lot of twos, they're getting a lot of like easier twos and free throws. And like I guess I just expect the free throw disparity to widen more than it has even. So I do think OKC wins tonight. I assume you do too.
Yep, I do. Don't have anything on yet. I think the unders. I think the Indiana point under is interesting, just because, like I said, just inability to score inside, inability to distribute the basketball, on top of the turnovers hurting you. Like, obviously, Haliburton's a great. He's a pretty good scorer. He's not A+ scorer, but like just the him taking care of the ball, I think is like kind of like the books are missing it. Like I feel like this line should be higher because Halliburton's value is like to me, worth a couple points. And I feel like it's not. I feel like I feel like this line would be the same. I don't know if any thoughts on that. Like I don't know. I feel like I want to bet OKC. I just haven't. Do you have any kind of like betting takes from a big picture before we'll talk some prop stuff for the in Discord and stuff. A couple of things I'm going to give out to the props that I like.
Yeah, I do think Hallie is worth a decent chunk, but
Mm-hmm.
I also think that like factor if you assumed Hallie were fully healthy, that this line would be pretty tight given like zigzag. They're at
Mm-hmm.
home for game six. Like this is sort of like and like OKC after it's seen a ton of late sharp money early in the series, like Indiana has been bet the last couple times. And so if Hallie were fully healthy, I think there's a chance that this would close four. And so like I think the open number at 5 or like 4.75 or whatever was already shading for like Hallie, the calf leaving at halftime with a calf thing and him playing really poorly. Like I think the open number was already at least baking in some Hallie, whether it be not missing time necessarily, but like being limited, being injured, not like I think the books assumed that he would play, but be somewhat limited, and then we get this sort of like confirmation on the calf strain and that he might not play, and then it jumps out to 6.5, but like that was already from Hallie being somewhat limited. And then now he's rolled in, but like I think the market knows that he's not that healthy. So like
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm saying is like at all 3 points of time in our like in the line movement, like I think the market was sort of expecting Hallie to be like dinging him somewhat, I guess what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. So I I don't have a bet on this.
Yeah.
If the tally in news moves it to like 5.5 again, like I was kicking myself for not getting the fives. If the 5 comes back, I probably would take OKC at 5.5. I'm not sure at 6. It's probably a pass, but yeah, I don't feel that strongly. And then like the under has moved a ton with the Hallie news, and like I don't think it's coming back much, even if Hallie gets
Yeah.
rolled in. So like just the 222 is kind of 222 and a half is a pretty low number. So no real strong betting takes from me.
Yeah, Dink gave out the under, which looked like it was going to cruise in the first half, and then freaking free throw parade. Should note, not too bad on the foul callers today. Tony Brothers a pretty heavy foul caller, and the other two are not. Oh, but yeah, I think they close it out tonight. Should be good. I'd love a game 7 on Sunday. That'd be fun. But do you think OKC is not going to let that happen there? Yeah. Last thing I want to do quickly hit is the Lakers. Jeannie Buss and the Buss family getting a cool $10 billion for selling the majority stake of the Lakers. She's still going to be on the governor's board for a little bit. Yeah, overall, just quick thoughts. I mean, I don't think it really has any like basketball. Like the Lakers are going to like, oh no, they have a new owner. It's not he's not going to like Matt Ishby it up and like ruin the franchise. I don't think. But yeah, any just thoughts on what you thought when the Lakers got sold? Pretty surprising. Another big surprise this week.
No real thoughts. Like it's not like the Lakers were not spending money. Like I love the way Mark Walter has like run the Dodgers, but
Mm-hmm.
it can only be positive news. But I thought like the Genie was running it fine. Like they were spending money. Like
Yeah.
also like NBA opposed to like others like MLB, like you can spend as much. Well, there's a luxury tax, but like the range of salary payroll is a lot wider, whereas in the NBA you have a salary cap and a salary floor. So like how much is it going to matter unless the ownership is really meddling in like front office decisions, which Mark Walter does not do. So I think like net positive news for the Lakers, but like I would be shocked if it has like a huge impact, like if most people even notice sort of like the difference. So um, Yeah, I know you wanted to touch on expansion real quick, but like I don't have any
Yeah,
strong thoughts on it. Yeah.
yeah. That was my after I thought like, whoa, actually thinking about the news from a Lakers perspective, my next thought was like, man, if someone's going to pay 10 billion, like, and you're talking about how valuable the NBA is, like, there you go. There's your point that like you've got the price point of how valuable a franchise is right now. So it feels like very likely to me that Seattle and Las Vegas are probably getting a team. That's kind of all I have. But yeah, do you have any great closing thoughts that you've been kind of going through for these finals? Anything on the ledger today?
No, not really. I guess I did briefly want to touch on that weird trade that we got, like
Yeah,
from reacquiring their own pick. Do you happen to know if the Pacers had acquired someone else's pick, would that reset Stepien too, or does it have to be
I
their own?
don't. I don't. I think it has to be their own. I'm not sure though.
Okay, I'm not sure either. I thought it was just you have to have a first. I don't know if it has to be your first, but like
Yeah.
that would be the main, like, if I need to check the rules, but if you have to have your own first, then that would be the real reason that they traded. But it feels weird, like being in the midst of the NBA finals, not just making a trade, but like trading for your own pick back, which is usually what you do when you tank. Or like my first thought was like, oh, do they know, like, did Hallie like tear his Achilles? Like, is there something that we don't know about Hallie?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that was the case. I think they just were setting up, being able to trade more firsts. Um, for those that don't know the stepping rules, like you cannot trade back to back firsts. Like you can't trade away and not have any of your own firsts or any first in general in 2 straight years until like the day of the draft. Then you can like trade this year's and next year's because like this year has technically become a player now. So that's probably the main motivation for that weird trade. But it just felt really odd to me. The timing, the whole it's their own pick back, like it's just what a team that usually is tanking is going to do, so that they have no
Yeah.
ramifications for losing a billion games. Just super weird in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was like uh, I don't know, worth mentioning a bit, but no other strong takeaways here.
Cool. So we'll get out of here on that. We'll be back on Monday to talk about the end of the NBA season. We'll see who wins this. Looks like OKC is going to have a good chance tonight, perhaps a good shot on Sunday if we get there. So yeah, check us out if you guys haven't been checking us out. We'll be still doing NBA stuff in the off season for the pods. We'll still be uh, we'll do best ball eventually whenever the stuff comes out. That'll be fun to do. We had a really good best ball year. Shout out Winky again for taking down DraftKings stuff. And we've got the WNBA product still grinding away. So make sure you check us out for the WNBA. Shout out the fantasy football guys. It was great seeing Levitan. Great meeting Evan Silva for the first time, who I've known for like 15 years. Really cool weekend in Colorado there. So yeah, appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.